It's got a BMW engine, a BMW interior, but a Toyota ride and handling tune. And that means you're about to come up with some very witty comments such as, oh my God, LOL, it's just a BMW Supra. Oh my God, LOL, it's a Z4 Coupe. We've heard it about 1,000 times before, so just save yourself the effort. Today I want to run you through the features of this car and explain why I reckon this is a fantastic Toyota product. Because we've made this a detailed review and it goes a bit longer than our normal ones, I'm going to let you skip ahead to any particular section that you might be interested in using the time codes on the screen. Or if you're time poor, there's a 1-minute summary of the all-new Supra for you to get all that information. Alternatively, grab a beer, grab a coffee, grab whatever you want and strap in for the rest of this review. The all-new Supra has finally landed and brings with it the B58 turbocharged 6-cylinder petrol engine from BMW, producing 250 kilowatts of power and 500 newton meters of torque. It uses an 8-speed automatic transmission and shoots from 0 to 100 k's an hour in just 4.3 seconds. This rear-wheel drive sports car features adaptive dampers and comes in 2 trim levels, GT and GTS. Pricing kicks off from $84,900, with only 300 examples making it to Australia in the first 12 months, and most of those have already been accounted for. Inside the cabin, carryover components from BMW such as the switchgear and infotainment system bring champagne taste on a beer budget. Braking comes in the form of 348mm front brakes with 4-piston calipers, while the tyres are sticky rubber from Michelin in the Pilot Supersport. It sounds good, it looks good, and it attacks corners like a nimble sports car on steroids. But if you want more details, stay right where you are. So here we are driving the all-new Supra, the A90, the GR, whatever you want to call it. But is it as good as Toyota reckons it is? Well, let's kick back a couple of gears and find out. This has been built entirely as a driver's car, and I can tell you right now that behind the wheel, it feels exactly like that. You hit the sport mode and the adaptive dampers go a little firmer, so instead of being overly comfortable, it's now just a little on the firmer side, but still so much compliance through the chassis. Oh man, I cannot describe how good it sounds in here. So some of that is inducted noise through the speakers, but you're getting a great deal of noise there through the exhaust. There's crackles. Oh, it pops as you lift off. It's seriously good. The steering, I tell you what, this is possibly the best part about this. The Z4, I don't know, it kind of feels a little bit numb through the steering. The tune this has is incredible. So you're getting a lot of feedback through the wheel, but it's not overly heavy. And if you do find it heavy, you can just go into your custom sport setting and dial it back a bit. The brakes are good, but we did find at the track when we tested it, they got a little spongy, but they just needed a bit more effort. And it just doesn't stop pulling. It's incredible. 250 kilowatts of power, 500 newton meters of torque, and that's all from that B58 3-litre turbocharged 6 from BMW. Uses a twin-scroll turbocharger, and it has virtually no lag at all. You can just lean on the throttle in any gear, and it just picks up nicely. The 8-speed auto is a ZF unit, and it's been tuned perfectly. There is never a dead spot there. Cannot get enough of that noise. There is never a dead spot there, and it is always pulling and getting ready to give you everything that you ask for. It is seriously hard to fault this as a dynamic driver's car. Let's talk about the wheelbase. So there's a golden 1.55 ratio. That's wheelbase to track width. So this is quite a fat car, effectively. It sits wide on the road, but it has a narrow wheelbase, so you are getting a lot out of that package, and it feels really nice and nimble to drive. Let's talk tyres and brakes. Michelin Pilot Supersports all round, 275 millimeters wide at the rear, and this is what transforms the car. This same engine in some BMW products is just under-tired. Here, when you've got a curb weight of a little under 1,500 kilos, the tyres really translate this into an effective, tractive package. The brakes are really good as well. 348 millimeters at the front, 345 millimeters at the rear, 4-piston calipers at the front. And like I said, they do hook up nicely, but the pedal can feel a little spongy after a while. And it isn't brake fade. It's just the pedal feel just isn't quite there on occasion. Communication through this chassis is seriously next level. It's like you're driving an 86, but with a whole lot more power and with a slightly more composed ride. Nothing feels underdone here, and in fact, I don't even think you need any more power. This is sensational. You can have an absolute ball here, throw it around a bit, and you know exactly what it's going to do. There isn't that restrictive traction control that you get with BMW products. There's enough leeway for me to ride the throttle through a corner and then just bury it on the way out and know that it's going to hook up. You just cannot do that in a whole lot of sports cars. Now, when you've settled down a bit, you've got your other half in the car, you kill the sport mode and put it into comfort. That's where the noise kind of stops coming in through the speakers. You don't get the crackles through the exhaust. You don't get as much turbo induction noise from the engine. The steering lightens up and the ride becomes super comfortable. Now, it's super comfortable to the point where it just kind of feels like it should be a luxury saloon. It is on the firmer side of sporty, but it still is sporty enough to be sporty, but comfortable enough to be comfortable. So you're not actually losing out anything when you go to that comfort mode. The only negative here is that at highway speeds, and especially on coarse chip surfaces, you're getting quite a lot of cabin noise from the tyres. That's an inherent issue with the Pilot Super Sport, and it's something that you're going to have to overcome and kind of get over. Visibility out of the cabin is great. You're sitting quite low to the ground. I can see really far ahead. It's got quite a long nose on it, so you've got to be careful when you're parking up against curbs. But visibility out the sides is great, and out the rear, I've got that little envelope there through the window. It has a really good reversing camera, front and rear parking sensors, and then you have all of your safety aids, such as autonomous emergency braking. You've got a lane keeping assistant, a blind spot monitor. So it is a civilized car from that point of view. It's not like you're missing out on any critical safety features just because you've decided to go for the sporty Toyota. Okay, final part to owning this car. We know the starting price is around that $84,000 mark in Australia. You step up another 10 grand for this, the GTS, and you've got a couple of options here and there. But how much is it going to cost you to run? Given this isn't really a Toyota, they've got to service it like a BMW. Well, the good news is Toyota's announced $380 capped price servicing for the first 5 years, and that's with 12 monthly service intervals. So this is going to be a really cheap car to run. The official fuel consumption figure is under 8 litres per 100 Ks. And even now, we have been absolutely fanging this thing and having a bit of fun in it. 10 litres per 100 Ks. I mean, it's that kind of economy that you simply do not get from a car that delivers these kinds of thrills. So the BMW theme continues here in the cabin, and I'll start off with the key. Even though there is a Toyota badge, this is very much a BMW key. It is a bit disappointing though, because it feels very cheap, light and a bit hollow. The BMW M keys have some metallic elements in here that give them a bit of extra weight and make them feel a little more premium. So I would have liked to see something a little better there. Up the top is BMW's iDrive system, 8.8-inch display. It's a touch screen as well. I'll go into a bit more detail there later on. Down here, this is one of my favorite features from BMWs. You have your memory functions, but what you can do is just hover your finger above them and it will tell you exactly what those functions are. And you can assign virtually anything in there. So if you have your favorite destination there or a radio station, you can do it all there. So that is a very handy function. Down here, we have the climate controls. So dual zone climate control, and then you can adjust the fan speed in auto mode. Heated seats as well, and also auto opening and closing of the air vents, which is a handy feature. Now down here, the entire Supra range comes with this handy feature, wireless phone charging. So you slide your phone under there, hooks up and it's ready to go. USB connectivity, 12-volt outlet there as well. Down here you have the iDrive controller. Again, this is one of the best infotainment systems in the industry. So the fact that you've got this with shortcut functions and also a pad on the top for you to write things. So when you are putting nav destinations in, you can use that. This bit is my favorite part of the Supra because it is where you access your controls for the sport mode. So instead of having a complicated M1, M2 like you do get in a BMW performance car, you just press one button. This puts it into sport mode. It makes everything aggressive, the gearbox, the steering, the throttle response, and then you can also customize that sport mode to make each of the items individually different. So you can have light steering, but still have sharp engine response as well. There's also another handy function here, a safety system button. So press that. And what it allows you to do is customize the safety functions, but also switch them off entirely. Now, you may be wondering, what is the purpose of doing that? Well, if you're on a racetrack, for example, and you're getting close to other cars or you're having to brake late, you don't want the systems thinking you're going to crash into something. So it is good that you're able to turn all of that stuff off altogether. There is no manually operated handbrake. It is entirely one of these doovers here. So it is an electronic one. 2 cup holders. You've then got a little hole here as well for your odds and ends, and also a glove box too. It's not huge, but it is big enough to store your odds and ends. Ahead of the driver, you have another 8-point-something-inch display, and this is handy because it is entirely a Toyota unit. So Toyota's put their own little flair on this. You're getting a little rev gauge there, and then some bars for the engine temperature and fuel. Ahead of the driver is a heads-up display as well. Really good setup there. So in the sport mode, you can customize those displays. You also get navigation information and a speed readout too. The steering wheel. I'm not in love with this. I do love that you get your paddle shifters there that are easy to access, but I reckon it looks a little bit plain. I would have liked to see perhaps a smaller middle section here where the airbag is, but you will find your controls here for the radar cruise control, which is standard, along with your voice control functions and also the stereo control functions. Excellent 12-speaker JBL stereo here too. So this really is the full interior package. So now let's have a closer look at iDrive. Like I mentioned before, 8.8-inch screen. It's also a color touch screen as well. This is the main map display. I'm going to hit menu. That takes us to the home screen. Now the cool bit here, being that it is a touch screen, you can shift between the menus, but you can also move them around. So if you prefer to have this over here, you can shift those around fairly easily, which is pretty cool. Inside the media menu, this is where you're going to find the ability to switch between sources. Now, being that this has a number of sources available, you can choose them in this list. DAB, so that's digital radio, FM, AM. You've got an internal music collection, so internal storage that you can transfer files to. You've got Bluetooth connectivity with your phone, also USB input as well. And then you've got your sound settings as well. So this is where you can increase the bass and treble and that kind of thing. If we hop back over to the main menu, you have communication. This is where your phone lives. And this is where you're able to get your contacts list, have a look at recent calls, dial numbers, and manage your devices as well. So that's all pretty straightforward. Over in the navigation menu, this is my favorite part about iDrive because it's so easy to use and it's so intuitive as well. So there's a couple of options. I can either talk to the car using the voice recognition and blurt out an entire address. It then inputs it manually for me and does everything, so I don't need to worry about that. Or if you do want to put it in manually, you can come in here, pick your suburb, and then instead of selecting characters individually, which you can do, you can just use the top of this pad here. So if I want to do an S, and then an O, it's pretty handy. So you can virtually do everything either with a touchpad, using the rotary dial, or speaking to the car. So all bases are covered there. You can zoom in and out fairly easily too. It's quite an intuitive and quick system. You can change map views here as well, and also set it to auto zoom, which I like. So if you come to an intersection, for example, it will zoom in so you can see everything in that context. Next menu along, we have the car. Now this is the fascinating one because you are able to change all of the car's settings here, so such as your lighting, how long that stays on for, steering wheel vibration, speed assistance, the attentiveness assistance. So if you have been driving for a while, it will remind you to take a break, along with parking sensitivity and configuring the sport mode as well. You're able to then also configure the rest of the settings on the displays. So you can configure what you'd like to be on this display in front of you, how much information you'd like in the heads-up display, and then what you'd like to display on either side of the tachometer too. You can change your units and all that kind of thing as well. If we then jump down the menu, you've got vehicle status. So when you are out on the racetrack, this is where you're going to find critical information such as your engine temperatures, your oil temperatures, oil levels. So it's all very handy information to have. And this will also be where you find your service reminders too, and when you need to change certain items such as your brake fluid. If you do have your car configured for connected services, you will get notifications through here, and also your error messages. So if the car throws up anything, they will store the error messages here until you clear them later on. And then finally, you have your connected services menu. So just like BMW, you are able to have internet connectivity, and this will allow you to do things like real-time traffic management as well. Normally a car company wants to prevent you from doing anything under the bonnet here, but this car is very much an exception to that rule. Tetsuya Tada, who was the chief engineer for this car and also the 86, has designed the platform so that you can fit a 2JZ under the bonnet. It'll fit nicely under there. They've also allowed for future customization and aftermarket accessories. So you can see things like these bolt holes where you can actually start strapping on other parts. Now these blanked out sections here may look a little ungainly too, but they pop out, which means that if you do want some extra cooling down the track, simply yank those out and away you go. And here's a little bit of interesting information from the chief engineer himself. You'll notice here there are two bonnet latches. This car, the Toyota Supra, the A90 and the A80, so the previous generation, are the only two Toyota products that actually use the twin latch system. Everything else has a single latch in the center. And by the way, there's a 290 litre boot in the back there. It's not a massive space, but it's enough to get a gym bag or golf clubs or something like that in there. So that's been your first look at the all-new Toyota Supra. I know how easy it is to just say this is another BMW with a Toyota badge, but it seriously isn't. It feels like it has a Toyota heart. Despite the fact it's running a whole stack of BMW components, it actually feels like a Toyota dynamically to drive. And that's the reason I've bought one. I've got one that is pretty much the exact same as this, a GTS in Nürburgring grey matte with Alcantara interior coming, and I cannot wait for it. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Let us know if you have any questions as well. If you want to stay where you are, we have an interesting interview coming up with Tetsuya Tada, who was the chief engineer for this car and also the 86, and he gives us some insights into this program and also what's coming up for the Supra. So we're joined in the car today by a legend at Toyota, Tetsuya Tada, who is the chief engineer for the Toyota Supra. So let's kick off by asking this one. One of the biggest criticisms of the Supra is the lack of a manual transmission. Do you have a desire to address this?
Yeah, I know well what so many people request a manual transmission for Supra. Many people say, I want to drive new generation of automatic transmission. I want to experience many Supra customer first.
Okay.
After that, let's discuss again.
Okay.
Toyota is always think about customer demand is number one. Therefore, yeah, still I get requests from many people about manual transmission. Of course, yeah. So I try to do my best.
Okay, so you think down the track maybe we'll see a manual transmission? Yeah. The next question we've got here, was it a hurdle or was it pleasurable to work with BMW co-developing this?
Finally, I was really enjoy to work with BMW people. We are really close friends and still keep in touch each other.
Yep. And Tada-san explained earlier that as part of the whole communication process, because of different cultures, it was hard to get started, but you had a member of your team who spoke German.
Yeah.
And he was the person that was kind
that's
of...
right, that's right.
Yeah. And that always helps because obviously two very different cultures, but working on the same goal of this car. A question about the Toyota 86, which is another one of your projects. Is there enough demand for a new version of the 86?
So already next generation, so 86, so new team already started.
Okay.
Therefore, yeah, I don't know exactly, but maybe, yeah.
Okay.
It's also a really successful car.
Will we see a turbocharged version of the 86 in the future?
That's also, I don't know. So, yeah. Case of 86 at that time also I get so many requests from when turbo version will come.
Okay, cool.
One reply about that is new Supra.
Yep. So the response to Supra has been very good. Does this make it easier to make another sports car? So you have 86 Supra and one more?
Yeah. Every time. So business case point of view, sports car business is really hard.
Yeah.
To come over many hurdles.
Yep. Okay. So
far, I cannot say yes or no. Maybe many people try to do.
Yep.
Yeah, my best.
Yes. Okay. And does it make you warm inside that there has been such a positive reply to Supra?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's so good. So
excellent.
Amazing.
Excellent.
But so honestly speaking, so beginning of, Supra premiere at Detroit early this year.
Yep.
After Detroit, I get so many negative comment from all over the world.
Yep.
But when people have a chance to see a real Supra and chance to drive, opinion has been quickly changed.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Do you think that we'll ever see a Targa version of the Supra?
Yeah, technically, it's possible.
Okay.
But personally, Targa is not my taste.
Okay.
Yeah, because just so small, open face.
It's not enough. Okay. So was the Supra developed with the aftermarket in mind?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yes.
Yeah, in case of 86 also, I created many design.
Yep.
Thinking for 86 customization, but so Supra much
okay.
so deep and If I say much more so racing track side,
Okay.
yeah, modification ready.
Yep. Okay. And you mentioned earlier that the air vents come out.
Yeah,
and
and many cooling, so drain plug already ready.
Yep. Okay. And you mentioned as well that you could, if you wanted to, fit a 2JZ under the bonnet.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Yes. Yep. Yep. There's a lot of heritage.
Tuning people are waiting.
Yep. So we have next to us there an A80 Supra. What do you think are the similarities between this car and the previous generation Supra?
If I explain, many, not only major one, minor parts also. I'll explain one example.
Yep.
When you open the bonnet, people can see your bonnet hook latch.
Yes. Yep.
Supra has a two latch, but almost also Toyota and Lexus car has only one.
One. Okay.
But do you know only one Toyota car has a two latch? That is A80.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So that's where that's come
that's
from.
kind of many. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's cool. And what, I mean, you mentioned this a little bit earlier. What do you say to the people that are critical of the Supra before they drive it?
Anyway, please drive it as soon as possible. Yeah. Wheel driving can make everything better.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the key thing there. Please make sure you have a drive, because I was in the same boat when we had the chance to drive the car as a prototype in Madrid last year, and I was blown away by it.
Yeah.
And when I tell everyone how much I like it, they all said I'm wrong. So, but I think they need to drive themselves and see what it's like.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy.
So, and then last question here. While it is a platform that's shared with BMW, how much influence did Toyota have at the beginning to create this platform?
It's very difficult to explain the ratio, but we mean that Toyota and BMW make a really new platform together.
Yep.
To achieve real pure sports car performance.
Yep.
Between coupe body and convertible like Porsche Cayman and Boxster.
Yep. Okay. And so you mentioned earlier as well that Cayman is a competitor. Porsche has Cayman S, Cayman GTS, Cayman GT4.
Right.
Do you think that one day we'll see M2 competition engine under the bonnet?
Sure. So M2 competition engine, I cannot say yes or no, but every year sports car should be update.
Okay.
Same as Porsche.
Okay.
Porsche also first launch year, they introduced just basic version.
Yep. You're more and more.
Yeah, more and more. The many variations of the Supra. Porsche. Supra also try to do same as Porsche.
Excellent.
Porsche way.
Yes, excellent. All right, well, that's good news for Supra fans out there. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and if you do have any other questions, we will make sure to answer them. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and all the hard work that's been put into this brand new model.
Thanks so much.